as he did with DSS, and using his position of power to take children from homes. I have advocated for people that there's a couple different women in North Carolina that have special needs children, one with autism that was taken for her home and put in a group home. I even testified. I'm a medical provider because this child was medicated so heavily with Haldol that she can now barely speak sentences or even only can do like gross motor movement. Before she could dry her own hair and speak in full sentences. About getting the child back to the mother that was taken from DSS. I even had another mother where her special needs child was when she turned 18, DSS actually went into the school and had the child sign herself over to the state. I have 6 children. Amy Betts also has 3. There has been countless families right now that we're working with that have multiple kids. Over three kids in the family are also targeted because they're getting that state money to put children in foster care. They get paid $800 a child, and the state also gets matched that $800. So we're really concerned about this bill, this Senate Bill 265 being passed, where these DSS can remove the children for 1 year, and all of a sudden the rights of the parent is terminated, because in the situation of that special needs child that was in the group home for 3 years, it was 3 years before we could get the child back in the home. So that mother was fighting intently for 3 years to get that child back in the home. So our concern is this bill passed, that there could be a lot of trauma to more families. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Victoria, I'm going to see if we can get Amy Betts the permission to talk again.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Amy, you may begin as soon as the timer is visible again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, my name is Amy Betts. I'm a biological mother and a nonprofit to the right of biological parents. Biological parents assert their First Amendment right.
Amy, I truly apologize for interrupting. Your audio sounds very choppy. I'm not sure if you can try switching to a different device, but currently we're not going to be able to understand what you're saying. We can come back to you later in the event if that's all right.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. At this time, I'd now like to call on CC Jones.
We do not have a CC Jones on the line.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask Sarah Lee if you can speak.
Hello?
Hi, Sarah. We can hear you. Please begin when the timer becomes visible.
Okay, thank you. My name is Sarah Lee. I have been a family integrity advocate for the last 8 years, working in cases primarily in North Carolina and some other states. I've had a hand in changing state and child welfare in regards to the Family First Preservation Act of 2019. I really have to bring forward a cry for help from families that I've worked with. We are facing massive amounts of civil rights violations that are stemming from not all these changes to legislation. They're stemming from people not caring about what laws are being changed, not educating themselves about the laws that are being changed. We have no transparency or accountability for people to rise up and educate themselves in this continuing education when we have appeals courts, cases being issued, the rulings and things are not being utilized on a lower court case level. So a lot of families have to depend on appeals court just to potentially get their kids back when they have minor incidents of fitness, have false allegations lodged against them, that sort of thing. My opinion is that it's really going to take a committee of people that have varied interests, not just guardian ad litem, social workers, and that sort of thing, but also parents, relatives, that sort of thing, who all have a stake in the matter. Griswold versus Connecticut, I'm sure you are all aware of, outlines that these violations that are happening on a lower court level and with the agency, because they're two different things, give way to civil rights violations. Unfortunately, we can't say that without saying that, yeah, there are civil rights violations, but there's really no way for people to depend on somebody to hold the agencies and the courts accountable. There's no accountability. And right now, the courts throughout North Carolina have been court watching as well. They are starting to shut down the courtrooms to people and to advocates and to news reporters. So it's not a thing where they say it's confidentiality of the child and the interests, because there are ways available for these people to close certain parts of the court and keep things confidential in the interest of children. But once again, there's that lack of education, accountability, and transparency that's dire. You can do things on a state level, you can do things on a federal level, but if nobody listens to them, and we have a frankly good old boy system going on in North Carolina. If you're dependent on that system to do whatever you want with the law, it's an abuse of the law. And it's an interest in the general public for us to address that and get to a point where we can have trust in our system again. I personally don't have trust in the system. I have been thrown in jail, assaulted, false allegations. My children I've not seen in 7 years because I attempted to file evidence of my innocence. And so it affects us all greatly. It needs to be addressed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Victoria, it looks like you're muted.
At this time, I'd now like to call on Gail Turner to speak.
Gail is not on the call.
Okay, thank you, Liliana. At this time, I'd like to call on Jacqueline Kent.
Jacqueline Kent is also not on the call.
Thanks. At this time, I'd like to call on Zalanda Woods to speak. And I apologize to all participants if I might mispronounce your name. Please correct me if I do.
Zalanda Woods was on the call, but I don't see her, so she may have accidentally dropped off, so we can come back to her.
Okay, the next registered speaker was Amy Palacios, who I believe we already heard from. I'll move on to Kaylee.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Kaylee, yes, we can hear you. Please begin your comments as soon as the timer becomes visible.
My phone is glitching. I'm trying to send the email now, but my legal name isn't Kaylee. I didn't know I actually had to put my legal name on there.
I see your email. Thank you so much. We have it.
Okay.
You can get started.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, my phone is glitching for some reason. I'm sorry. I just here today to share my personal experience with the system, because it highlights significant civil rights issues, and I really want to bring attention to it. My journey began with like a 9-month-long case initiated by a complaint, and from the onset, DSS actually disregarded an official police report that contradicted this complaint. And despite my proactive engagement in services for psychological disabilities that I had, an upper staff member actually deemed me mentally incompetent to be a good mother because I simply cried after being informed that my children may be placed in foster care during the investigation stage, despite that evidence against the complaint. But throughout the case, I remained cordial and I was always compliant. During the 6-month investigation stage, which is legally way way longer than what they need to be. I was misled into believing the case was nearing over and over and over again, and I was denied my right to ever ask questions. Paperwork delays were always cited as the reason for the prolonged investigation, as they said there was an excess amount of cases. Throughout this period, I was faced degrading remarks such as being labeled as a red flag who lies to get Black men sent to prison because every party involved in the case was African American except myself. And when I tried to speak up and defend myself, I was taunted and threatened with legal action to remove my children for the second time. And despite addressing all the concerns for the case, I was still unjustly petitioned to court with the intention of removing my children for non-compliance because the other party involved in the case was the one actually non-compliant, but that was out of my control. And they did not face any of the similar threats of their children being removed. They were not degraded. They were not humiliated. And my rights to understand this process were always denied, and I was always mocked when I saw answers. The person that actually made the initial complaint was a past abuser, and I am here in Cabarrus County protecting my family in hiding. My caseworker in this case was provided all the evidence to emphasize my safety and security and confidentiality. Yet DSS and their attorney violated my privacy by directly sending my confidential information, such as my address and my phone number, to my abuser, and now has compromised our safety. And they refused to acknowledge their accountability and directly said that is now my responsibility to ensure my children are safe. When I attempted to file a complaint, the upper staff member, as previously mentioned, threatened me and accused me of perjury, and I was refused all rights to speak to anyone who could assist me. And I'm a registered tribal member with the village of Kotzebue and Mexican American. And I faced multiple threats, 4 times actually, of having my children removed, yet neither ICWA nor any Mexican heritage representatives were contacted during the 7 months.
Thank you, Kayla. Your time is now up.
And if I may just interject and say that any additional statements, please feel free to submit them in writing.
Victoria, it does look like we have Zalonda Woods on the call now. Would you like to return to her?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Zalonda, if you can hear us, we're going to give you permission to speak, and you can begin your remarks when the timer becomes visible. You can go ahead, Zalonda. Zalonda, we're not able to hear you at this moment, so we're going to need to move on, but we can come back to you. At this time, I'd like to ask Latia to speak.
I do not see Latia on the call.
Thanks. I'll move on now to Amalia Petian.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Amalia, we're just waiting for the timer to come up shortly, and then you can get started. You can begin.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I want to tell you thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you about what happened to my family and what this experience has helped me to realize. 1, that I can't be the only family they've done this to, and 2, maybe this happened to me so I can expose their lies with the truth. I'm a resident of Wake County and I'm in Region 5. To this day, I have not gotten any assistance from the regional office and don't even know who my representative is. On December the 1st, 2023, I got a call from my daughter's school regarding her behavior. Her father disciplined her. Even though I know that the school system is the #1 reporter to CPS, in this incident, it was the hospital. On December the 5th, I received a text from a caseworker by the name of Samantha May stating that she received a report. After I received the text, I attempted to call. She didn't answer. I would text, and sometimes she would text back. The first time that I met Samantha was on January 2nd, 2024, almost a month after she initially reached out to me. Samantha came to my home, talked to me and 5 out of my 9 children for about 45 minutes. Samantha reported that there were no concerns that warranted the removal of my children on this date, that this case was against their father. On January 16, 2024, Samantha reached out to me again and stated that she was on the way to my home. When Samantha showed up, she had a police officer with her by the name of Detective Fungaro. After talking to Samantha, the officer asked to search my home, and I gave him permission because I didn't know that I could say no. He was in my home with Samantha, and I was worried that if I said no, my children would be taken. My life changed instantly when the officer then told me to stand up and that I was being arrested for medical neglect. Medical neglect? I had never medically neglected my children, which is why I know that Samantha and the detective planned this before they even walked through my door. The detective used Samantha to gain access to my home to arrest me. And I want other families listening to know that they should not let CPS agents or law enforcement in your home without a warrant. Samantha had met my family 2 times, but she gave the detective enough information to take out warrants for my arrest. I asked to call my mother to care for my children, and I was denied. I asked to call my daughter, and I was denied. No one knew I was being arrested, and I was being denied the ability to make a plan for my children's care. 2 days later, after my arrest, my mother and my daughter bonded me out. When I was released, I learned that a stipulation of my release was that I couldn't have contact with my own children. 2 weeks passed, and my children were left without any plan for their care. Per my release, I could not be the one to care for them. Samantha or anyone from Wake County never called to check on them to ensure their safety. After 2 weeks passed and no answers, I contacted Samantha's supervisor, Melissa Edwards. Melissa never took the time to explain the process to me and threatened me with going to court. I said that
Amalia, I
wanted to-
apologize. Your time is now up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to call Christina Laster to speak.
Can you all hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you.
So
You can begin your remarks in a couple seconds here.
Okay.
Okay, please go ahead.
My name is Cheryl Huff, and I am speaking on behalf of Christine Laster. We're with the Middle Tennessee National Action Network here in Nashville, Tennessee, and we are working on different cases with CPS. We're starting a advocacy training for parents, for foster parents, for the community to understand what their rights are when it comes to CPS and DCS. Christina Laster has a daughter that's been incarcerated since March because of a situation that happened here in Tennessee, and the dad lives in California. Her daughter's child was being abused by the father, and she was abused by the father, and she was seeking help. He came with some illegal paperwork, came to Nashville, and the judge, the authorities, and everybody allowed him to come in and take the child, and no one did their investigation. No one did anything. They just took him for his word, and now this child has disappeared. The mother is sitting in jail for a child abduction, and no one really helped her. She filed a case because he took the child and disappeared. She showed him her custody papers and everything, and they told her that's a civil matter. They don't get involved. He showed them his 2018 custody paper, and they turned Tennessee upside down looking for her. When they found her, they put her in jail, and they got her at a $250,000 bond to get out. And no one did the investigation and saw that this woman had full custody of her child. We're doing an advocacy training. Our website is www.nanmiddletn.org. If anybody's interested, we have attorneys, we have judges, everybody's going to be on this panel, and we're going to have discussion helping with this situation and getting more help on board. A nation together is better than one on its own. So please get in touch with us if you're interested in being a part of this advocacy training that we're putting together to help parents, children, and community with what DCS is doing to us.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Laster, may I ask if this training is inclusive of North Carolina for parents to train for training purposes?
It is for the whole United States. Anyone that's interested and want to be a part of this, please, we want you all. It's going to be held July the 30th. And so we're putting it all together, and we want everybody involved everywhere.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd now like to call on Gail Watkins to speak.
I do not see Gail Watkins on the call.
So I'll move on to Lolita Allen.
I think we're moving on to Brittany Glover.
Thank you, Liliana. Is Brittany Glover on the line?
Yes.
Hi, Brittany. You can begin your remarks when the timer starts.
Okay. I guess I really I'm not sure what to actually even say or ask, but because I'm actually still going through this. They never did put a motion in for, so I guess my lawyer has to call in for a motion. But I was looking over the adjudication, and like the judge's signature isn't on the paperwork, so I'm lost at like how this can even be like a valid case. There's the dates are wrong. Like there's assessments that are 2027. Like we haven't even made it to that date yet. And my lawyer's trying to say that there's nothing that she can do about that. So I'm, like I said before, like I've contacted Congressman, DHHS, a lot of people that I've contacted. I've even contacted the president of the United States. Like there's nobody that can help in this situation, period. And it's kind of sad because it's like people are making it like it's the norm that, you know, people's children just get taken, and it's nothing you can do about it. And then they block grandparents from getting their children. So it's like I don't understand the justice system or the courts at all, period. It's a lot what I've been going through in Chatham County. And I have not gotten any help, guidance. I've contacted the Disabilities Act because I have a disability. So I lost my rights because of the disability that I have, the narcolepsy that I have. I have a lot of stuff wrong with me. But I never received any help from DSS. It's like they just took my kids because of things that I can't control. Um, yeah. So thank you for, I guess, listening. Because like I said, there's nothing nobody can do about this at all. It's like you have to have a lawyer, but you have to have money to have a lawyer. So you're kind of middle poor class, you don't have money like that to obtain a lawyer. So you're kind of, I mean, your kids are just taken. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Brittany. At this time, I'd like to move on to Christmas Smith. Christmas, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. So you can get started as soon as the timer starts. Go ahead.
Good evening. I am Christmas Smith. I am the mother of 5 children, one who is medically fragile. His name is Kelly Smith. We reside in Beaufort County, Washington, North Carolina. What do you do when your voice is silenced? What do you do when you are Black in America and your voice is silenced? No matter if you read books, no matter if you don't. What do you do when you are a Black mother of a medically fragile child that talks with confidence, with your head held high, loud and clear? I'm nobody to these people. What do you do when you're standing there looking at your child's lifeless body for 20 minutes and you can't say anything because of the stigma of being Black and that Black people don't know anything except for getting handouts from the government? What do you do when you're not allowed to choose what's best for your child, despite not having a medical diploma, a PhD, or RN title? Kelly is alive because he loved the love he receives from his parents. On June 1st, 2023, Kelly coded for 20 minutes and came back as his father and I cheered him on, letting him know we were not leaving him and that we were right here with him. Kelly was born with SMA, that's spinal muscular atrophy, during the global shutdown of 2022. Kelly was born February 13th, 2020. We were instructed to get used to our son not being mobile due to the SMA. Also, the research. We have documents, court papers of these people lying on us, and they took our son from us. It's been 2 years. Kelly is once again alive because of us, did everything we were supposed to do to take care of our child. And they just sat there and lied on us and continue to keep him to this day because who we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd now like to ask Joey Pitts to speak.
Do not see Joey Pitts on the line.
Thank you. We'll move on to Sharaka Pettiford, who I understand will be using Amanda Wallace's audio.
That is correct.
Is it me now?
We can hear you.
Hi.
Hi, good evening. You can begin.
My name is Sharaka Pettiford, and on April 8th, 2019, DSS kidnapped my children. I'm a mother of 7 children, and at the time when they were taken from me, their ages were 2 to 13. And we fell victim to a system that targets Black families and seeks to separate them forever. We are all from Durham, North Carolina. Family is everything. Family is love to me. It's the love that you create. Family is the people you connect with. People think CPS protects and helps families and children, but in my reality, CPS made false assumptions about who I am as a person and as a mother, and took my children from the only loving home they knew. I know that the first question people ask is, what did you do to have your children removed? What I know is I did anything to harm my children. I was court-ordered to take substance abuse classes, anger management classes, mental health assessments, and parenting classes. I've jumped through hoops and maintained a stable home to bring my children back home. Yet I was denied visits with my children for the past 2 years and only recently granted only 2 hours a week supervised visits. The kidnapping of my children broke me. I don't sleep or engage because I don't want to do anything without my children. I don't eat as I should because I worry if my children have eaten. I'm told what I can and can't talk to my children about. I'm not allowed to ask them about their day, how they're feeling, if they feel safe. I can't answer their questions if they ask about coming home. Judge Doretta Walker, DA Keith Robeson, GAL attorney Joshua Sotomayor, social worker Rachel Moses are all responsible for breaking my family apart and ruining our lives. They have found me guilty of nothing. They don't know my children's names without looking at a piece of paper. They can't tell you any facts about me. I stand in the courtroom surrounded by people who are supposed to help reunify my family, yet they continue to silence and isolate me, keeping us separate. When I was given the title Mommy in 2006, it became the only title that mattered to me. But this system knocks you off your faith and fills you with doubt, makes you think you've done everything wrong, when in reality, the system is wrong. I'm going to continue to fight until my children are home with me, where they are loved, they are protected, and where they belong. My dad once told me when I was going through a tough time, Sharaka, you were made to conquer things like this. I am, and I will. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to ask Cheryl Smith to speak, who will be using Amanda Wallace's audio. Can you hear us, Cheryl?
Yes,
Sorry, you
ma'am.
can begin.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Smith. I'm a lifelong Durham resident with deep roots in my community. In my city. I have been a pillar in the community and stepped in to care for children in my community before foster care was even a thing. It's just the way the community did back then. Before the system impacted my family last year, I believe the system worked it for families. I believe the workers were supporting parents and working to keep families together. Now I know that this was all fabricated because since my children have been in custody, they have been bounced from home to home, hospitalized, and medicated. and at times living in the Durham County building when there were concerns for exposure to carbon monoxide poisoning. I haven't seen my girls in almost a year, even though they keep asking to come home. In May of 2023, I was reported by my children's school. In North Carolina, across this country, the school system is the #1 reporter to the family policing system. And something needs to be done to educate the school staff about the harm of reporting. Me and my girls were subject to intense interviews and constant harassment. The family policing agency also came to my home with law enforcement, which made my trauma 10 times worse. My son was murdered, and I fought against the school system and law enforcement for years to get justice for my son. Having contact with law enforcement again opened many wounds I had worked hard to heal. It was as if all these systems were working together to rip my family apart. Unfortunately, for families in Durham, my story is not unique. Over the past 2 years, more than 75% of children in Durham County foster care program have been African Americans, according to North Carolina FAST. In Durham, children stay in custody an average of 875 days, the second longest time frame in the state. Now, I am fighting back against the system and refuse to be silent. Not only did I suffer through the trauma of having my children kidnapped from me by a racist and classist system, now months later, I am facing criminal charges in an attempt to stop my actions. Durham County is silencing parents from speaking up by closing the courts to the community. Closing the courts leaves parents isolated, forced to deal with battling for their children without their support system. Closing courts keeps the system from being accountable for the community, and it's supposed to serve. To other families in North Carolina, keep fighting, keep organizing, keep speaking up. When we unite, we make the system less powerful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to ask Tella Von Pollard to speak.
I don't see Televan on the call, but if you're joining by phone, can you please use the *9 feature to raise your hand? I think we might be able to move on to Yvonne Pollard.
Thanks. Yes, the next speaker would be Yvonne Pollard, who I understand is using another participant's audio.
No, I don't. I think Yvonne's just using their audio. Yvonne, can you go ahead and try and speak for us?
Not letting her do.
Oh,
Speak that now.
there we go. We can hear you.
Got a hand up.
Yvonne, did you want to speak? Okay.
Yvonne, are you there?
No, they. Oh, oh, there's another one here. Let me. Okay. There are 2 Yvonne Pollards. Let me try this one.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm actually using Yvonne Pollard's line link. My name is Evelyn Bethia, and I'm her sister. One second. Yes, my name is Evelyn Bethia, and I'm a licensed social worker and a former child protective service worker, and have witnessed firsthand the inequalities and adversities that Black families faces within this policing system. I'm a living blood relative and available for kinship placement for my niece, my great niece, Tyava Pollard. I was never considered for placement or resource. This system is not geared to support Black families. Tyava Pollard should not have been adopted when my sister and her family have been available from the start of this case. I know firsthand that this has affected my sister to the point where her health has been affected. Although she is fighting hard, she is tired. We are concerned this child has been placed with a white family, no connection with her roots. I know for sure that the system, DCF, Child Protective Services, are supposed to keep lines of communication with their culture, with their family. There's available placement, kinship placement. This adoption needs to be reversed. It is wrong. We need to bring Tyava home. I'm here with my mother, great-grandmother to Tyava Pollard. Again, I'm the sister of Yvonne Pollard. Tyava Pollard is my great niece. She needs to be brought home and released from this policing system. This system is jaded, is continued with the slavery and putting these kids in harm's way with people who do not care and do not love them as their bloodline and family will. Those are my words. I'm gonna leave my extra minute for my sister to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. At this time, just to clarify, we're now going to hear from Yvonne Pollard. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is that you, Yvonne?
No, you were still speaking to Evelyn. Oh, Yvonne's talking now. Nope.
Okay, Yvonne, can you try to unmute?
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate you. My name is Yvonne Pollard, and I'm here representing the entire Pollard tribe. Are you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Currently dwelling in Columbus County, North Carolina. My fight began in New Hanover County, Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm Tyava's maternal grandmother, and my life has been forever changed due to Tyava being forcefully separated from our family for nearly 5 years. It's been over a year since she has been able to see our faces. We haven't been able to hug her, kiss her, tell her that we love her. And this pain is a pain that no grandmother or family member should have to bear. We welcome Tyava, born in April of 2019. She was born just beautiful and healthy. She brought us so much love and joy to our family. Unfortunately, our bliss was interrupted when the hospital staff made a report to New Hanover County DSS based on my daughter's past, which should have been a violation of her privacy rights. There were no safety concerns that warranted that report. But unfortunately for Black women, they are at risk of being reported when they go into a hospital because those nurses who are taught to judge and report instead of listening and supporting families. Nonetheless, New Hanover County Police, the family policing system, came to the hospital and demanded that we create a safety plan in order for us to leave with our own offspring. We complied because CPS agents threatened foster care if we did not agree. It appeared from the very beginning that our family was being judged due to a stigma, and it appeared that the department had a plan to remove Tyava from us. Tyava went home with her mother at first under 24-hour surveillance. Tyava was removed from her mother because I stepped in and was placed in my home along with her sibling. With law enforcement and their guns as backup, Tyava was removed from her daycare in less than 90 days. DSS did not provide me with any notice or any reason. There were no safety concerns. We fought tirelessly in the courts. We've even petitioned them for custody. We have military officers, firefighters, teachers, nurses, engineers, court officers. We are landowners, homeowners, business owners, and we have been blocked. We have not been heard, repeatedly filing in the courts. In the summary, there have been allegations that there have never been any allegations that Taeva has been harmed by our family, yet she has been removed by the family policing system. They adopted her. Ignoring our family options is egregious, and the state of North Carolina should not be able to profit off of my family's pain. Per the Adoption and Safe Families Act, the state gets $4,000 to $12,000 per child that they adopt out, which gets.
Thank you, Yvonne. Your time is now up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's genocide.
At this time, I'd like to confirm whether Lucy Pollard is on the line.
I do not see Lucy Pollard on the line, but I do see Yvonne's hand just went back up, so perhaps Lucy's with them. Would you like me to give them the permission to talk?
If we can confirm, please, if Lucy Pollard is with Yvonne.
Yes, I have two other people who are on my audio as well. Lynn Mintz and Barry Pollard. My mother allowed my sister to speak in her time.
Okay, so let's go ahead and have Lynn first then.
Okay. You have to be on the camera, but you can speak in 3 seconds. Go ahead and just start talking. Your turn.
Are you? Okay. My name is Lynn Mintz, and I'm just a friend of the family, but I've been familiar with them for several years, at least 8 or 10 years. And I've seen the home and the love that Yvonne shows to her grandchildren and her children, and to her friends. And they have this baby that was born. I'm familiar with adoption, and I'm familiar with babies being taken from their birth home and adopted out to people that are total strangers. And there is a difference. There's a difference. Those children, when they grow up, they're missing something, and it's not right that they can go in and have a child adopted out after the child's she's already bonded with her mama, her sister, her brothers, and they've got pictures. They look like they're looking in the mirror, but they're not allowed and to be adopted out and not be notified of it. That's not right. I myself adopted a child at birth, and it took me a long time to decide when to tell her she was adopted, that she had another family, but you could tell there's something missing. There's something missing when the children don't have their real family that they can bond with. They can go and find out anybody else to raise them, but once a child is born, it's blood, they're missing something until they find out about it. And anyway, I finally told my daughter when she was 14 years old, because we were having learning problems, because she was having all kind of issues from it. But I'm just here to show my support to the family of Taeva, because I can't believe that they didn't get to tell her bye. They didn't even get to see her when they adopted her out. They should have been told that was happening. Yvonne didn't even know. And I've seen the love she shows her children, and I've witnessed her raise, her immediate family, and that only comes from the heart. You can't buy it and make it work. But no notice of any kind given and a baby adopted out after it's already bonded with its real family, that's just ludicrous. That's like kidnapping. That's what it is. It's kidnapping a baby, and they don't even know where she's at now or if they'll ever see her again. And that's wrong. And the children have the right, to be in contact with their family. And if they don't want to be, they don't have to be, but they need to know they've got another family. They've got another family. It's, and thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you so much. At this time, I understand that Barry Pollard is present there as well, and we'd like to ask him to speak next.
Okay.
I'm here on behalf of the Pollard family, and just want to say that Tyra should not have ever been separated from her siblings. She have an older sister and two younger brothers, and cared for by the family. And there's no reason that Tyra should be separated from her brothers and her sisters. And her older sister, it really affect her because she cry all the time and draw pictures of like Tyra being in the family, and she's not there. And it really hurt her grandmother too, because it's taking her health down, and she did all she can. And it's like everywhere she turned, nobody there to try to help her. It's just, they don't have no answers. And she really can't get no help, no kind of way she's going. And they really didn't try to reunite her with her family. They took her from her family, and they didn't give her no reasons. There was no abuse. The child wasn't hurt, and she wasn't in danger. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you all very much. At this time, we'd like to ask Lolita Allen to speak.
Hello.
Hi, Lolita. You can get started when the timer begins.
Okay. My name is Lolita Allen, and I thank you for having me here today. I'm here representing Mrs. Pollard and her family. My grandchild and I are actively being traumatized by CPS and family court as well. CPS is nothing more than a family policing system / modern day slave masters whose primary intention is for our Black children to be sold through adoption to white families like on a modern day auction block. I know this to be true for two reasons. The first reason is because the court-appointed foster parent / custodian for my grandchild said to me that I need to think of it like slavery. I could be the slave that keeps running my mouth and end up dead, or be the slave that keeps my mouth shut and live, all because I don't have the power and the money to beat them, referring to CPS and the family court system. And also, the second reason is in light of the New York Post article that was dated 6/26/24, titled "A Wealthy White Couple Allegedly Keep Their Black Adopted Children as Slaves Locked in a Barn." In the meantime, my severely medically complex grandchild is in a nursing home that is infested with COVID and other viral outbreaks, which are lethal to her health. She is rapidly deteriorating and getting worse, and getting the worst possible health care possible. These horrific actions of CPS and family court demonstrates blatant abuse of power. Tyava has a grandmother and other family members who could care for her in their home, and yet they adopted her out to a white family. I empathize with Miss Pollard and her family. And most of all, my heart aches for Tyava due to the unknown trauma, neglect, abuse, and fear Tyava most likely is experiencing through this system. The Pollard family and Tyava was denied due process. The courts sent Miss Yvonne Pollard on a wild goose chase of filing petitions to have Tyava placed with Miss Pollard, knowing that they had already adopted Tyava out to her white family. The courts and CPS need to be held accountable for this misconduct of the court proceedings and process. Immediate action needs to be taken to see that Taeva's case is reopened and Taeva is reunified with her family immediately. And I yield. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to ask James Campbell to speak.
Good evening. As you heard,
I apologize. James Campbell, is that you?
yes, that's me.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm
You
with
can
my
get
wife,
started
Yolanda.
here shortly.
It's okay.
Sorry, please begin.
As you heard testimony today, I want you to understand the harm the family policing system causes to families. I also want you to understand that this harm and trauma is by design. According to a 2017 study of all children, 37.4% will experience a CPS investigation by their 18th birthday. However, more than half, 53% of Black children will experience a CPS investigation by their 18th birthday. Black children are removed from their homes at a higher rate in every state, and some states have egregious disparities. Children are being taken and then subjected to abuse and neglect in the system and have negative outcomes that have been reported for decades. Yet, this system continues to get funding to reform itself and make things better. According to a study by Shanta Trivedi, children in foster placements have higher rates of health problems, including physical, developmental, dental, and behavioral health conditions. One study of foster children in New York City, Philadelphia, and Los Angeles found that approximately 12% of foster youth did not receive routine health care. 30% were not immunized, and 32% had at least some health needs that were not being treated. I know this is to be a fact because my children have suffered neglect, not by me or my wife, but by Cabarrus County Family Police System. My children have missed medical appointments, have regressed because they want to come home, and they are frustrated that no one will listen to them. This system wants to make my children a statistic. And again, the statistics on their outcomes are clear. As adults, children who spent time in foster placements have higher rates of substance use disorder, are more likely to have a criminal record, and are less likely to have a high school diploma. Former foster youths are more likely to be unemployed and more likely to experience food insecurity. One study found that nearly 40% of former foster youth have been homeless or lack stable housing at some point since leaving the system. I want to thank you very much for taking the time out to listen to me, and thank you for speaking to us here in North Carolina, and I yield my time.
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify, is Yolanda also going to speak, or James, were you speaking for the both of you?
I'm here.
Oh, okay, great. Go ahead.
Thank you. The very foundation of the family is under a political attack in North Carolina. Currently, the House is reviewing Senate Bill 625, Child Welfare Social Services and DHHS reform. Similar to Ryland's Law, this reform effort will only give more power to the system to separate families permanently, disproportionately Black families. The representatives that drafted this bill didn't hide their purpose, and it is laid out on page 1 of the current draft. It reads, the purpose is to provide standards consistent with the Adoption and Safe Families Act of 1997 for ensuring the best interests of the juvenile are of paramount consideration by the court, and that when it is not in the best interest of the juveniles to be returned home, the juvenile will be placed in a safe permanent home within 1 year from the date of the initial order removing custody. The prior law stated that the children would give permanence within a reasonable amount of time, which allowed for some flexibility. Changing the language to give parents a fixed 1-year time frame should alarm every family in North Carolina. My children have been in custody for almost a year, and we have yet to be even found to be abused or neglected them. If this law passes, I could be at risk of losing my children forever, simply because the time ran out. The reality is this law, this system are all operating exactly how it was designed. And if we don't see that, we will get stuck in the same failing cycle of reform. For example, the Adoption Safe Families Act makes significant changes to the nation's foster care system. Most importantly, emphasizing adoption over family reunification, creating financial incentive for terminations of parental rights. So I say again, going back to the purpose of SB 625, which references ASFA, this bill is simply a continuation of the legacy of harm and family separation. Foster parents pushing for this bill to make it easier to improperly remove other people's children, you are a part of the problem. To any foster parents on this call tonight, I want to let you know, you again are a part of the problem. Parents want their children. You are not helping, you are harming. You are not saving, you are kidnapping. You are taking them from a safe and loving home. I urge you all to oppose this bill to your colleagues and help them see the impact this will have on families in North Carolina. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to go back to participants who were called on earlier and either had audio issues or were absent at the time. Again, I'm referring to registered speakers. And I'll call on Amy Betts to see if we're able to hear you now. Can you try speaking first?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think we can hear you better this time. Please begin when the timer starts.
My name is Amy Betts. I am a biological mother and the founder of Adelies, a North Carolina nonprofit that stands for the rights of biological families. Biological parents assert their First Amendment right and others secured. Our children are a precious gift from God. They are our heirs and posterity. The liberty interest of a biological parent in the care, custody, and management of the parent's child is a fundamental right. Where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would abrogate them. Unlawfully created orders, ex partes, policies, procedures, and fake documents are being used to enforce threats, harm, loss of property, and the kidnapping and trafficking of children from their biological families in North Carolina by the family court industry / child welfare system. This system worldwide is being impacted by deeply embedded gender bias that's leaving women and children vulnerable to violence and immense suffering. I have been a litigant, not by choice, but of this industry since 2007. I have 3 children. We have all been victims of these crimes at the hands of this system that includes judges, clerks, attorneys, paralegals, social workers, as well as ordered GALs, psychiatric evaluations, supervised visitations, and more. As an advocate, I work alongside biological parents daily to assist in guiding them to resources where they continue to deal with legal abuses from this for-profit industry. There has been zero recourse for biological parents in this system. My 2 older children and I entered this unlawful, inhumane system when they were 1 and 3.
Their dad obtained primary physical custody when I ran out of money to pay attorneys. That we shared joint legal. My ex gave the custody order that was created by his attorney, full of hearsay, to Judge Henderson in Mecklenburg County. He signed it knowing this. My ex gave that order to my kids' school and anyone he could to tell them I wasn't allowed around my kids. And then they would do whatever he said. He would obtain fraudulent ex partes orders consistently to control us. I'm going to continue on. In 2014, my youngest daughter was given to her convicted abuser by the system. She was 4. That was over 10 years ago. My charge, felony kidnapping from my child that had not left my side since birth. She was taken to a city 4 hours away, Wilmington, North Carolina, by her abuser. We were ordered supervised visits and then no contact for speaking up and filing complaints against those involved in our unlawful separation. The family court system generates funds by labeling parents. I was deemed a fit parent, but I was also labeled non-custodial. In turn, there is a custodial. This is the parent that the system allows to control the other parent. There's no means of redress for biological parents dealing with these legal abuses. The family court industry has turned into a trafficking machine that keeps biological parents silent under guise of safety and confidentiality. We, the parents, demand change. We are not okay with this. They are trafficking children and exploiting our parents. Agencies can create policies for themselves, but cannot enforce the public to abide. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is CC Jones. CC,
Hi.
can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear.
Great. Please begin when the timer starts.
Okay. Hi, my name is CC Jones, and I am in the middle of a crisis right now where I am in the system. My baby's in the system. And I am on this platform to speak about what my experience has been. I'm a licensed practical nurse. I've been a nanny for over 3 years. And I want to get as much information as I can about the goals of this meeting. I was just alerted to this meeting, but I will say that my experience with the court system is very interesting in that the law is you are supposed to have a trial, evidence is supposed to be introduced, but in reality, that does not happen. I am a woman of color, and because I am a woman of color, I believe that I was targeted. And when I speak up or speak out against it, I am punished severely in that I have been denied visitation. I have been denied access to being informed of how my baby is doing, and all under the guise of their safety concerns. I have done everything that they have asked me to do and more, and my baby is still not home with me. And I currently have taken the parenting assessment, which is a program that I just found out that tells DCS, CPS, if the parent who is taking this test is at risk for child abuse. Well, I recently completed the test and I am low risk. So it was unlawful for them to remove the baby from me in the first place, but I was targeted just because of what I look like. And that parenting assessment was done and implemented by Dr. Stephen Brock, and he's no longer with the program now, but that is a parent capacity assessment that is given to most parents whose children are in the system. It's a part of a case plan, and I am low risk, and my baby is still not with me. How does this happen? I'm trying to wrap my brain around it. I'm a nurse who has worked with children for 3 years. I'm a nanny. I used to be a nanny, worked with children of all ages, all demographics in all different environments. How does this continue to happen in the state of North Carolina? I yield.
Thank you very much for your comments. The next speaker will be Zalonda Woods.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Zalonda.
Okay.
You can get started.
Yes, my name is Zalonda Woods. I've been greatly impacted by Department of Social Services out of Guilford County, North Carolina. Guilford County right now is harassing me, and they've been harassing me for the last 8 years. But my case had started in 2016 in North Carolina. The hospital, Cone Health Hospital, called Department of Social Services on me. They tried to involuntarily commit me. They admitted me into the hospital unlawfully. DSS and the hospital came together to try to take my children. They tried to involuntarily commit me, and the person that they had to evaluate me, I told him I'm in school. At the time I was at Winston-Salem State University. I was studying as a scholar, and I told him, I know this isn't legal what you're doing or anything like that. He got scared and did not commit me. Department of Social Services was called by the hospital, claiming mental illness and claiming drug use. They said that I tested positive for barbiturates. The drug test said no substances detected. However, they put positive, saying that I had an old prescription, and that is the reason why they were saying that I was testing positive, without even testing positive. Me or my baby did not test positive at all. And then took me to court. The petition basically said a group of people that claimed that they talked to me and think that I needed to be involuntarily committed. My kids were taken for 2 years. I took my case to Court of Appeals. Court of Appeals reversed the trial court orders, and I ended up getting my kids back. However, they've been harassing me ever since, and I just put my case into the Supreme Court, North Carolina Supreme Court, in regards to the investigation as part of the case. Because the hospital claimed that was the ones that called CPS. That's when they said it was legitimate, but the hospital is now claiming they never said any of this stuff to Department of Social Services. And so I'm trying to seek justice for my family. They completely tore up my whole family. So I'm gonna still keep fighting. As far as for this committee, this being the North Carolina Advisory Committee to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, the cases that I've saw, including my own, they're all unconstitutional. They have conflict of interest in them. They make you compelled to testify against yourself, and then they lie and make fraud. So there needs to be a change.
Thank you so much. Your time is up now. The next speaker is Joey Pitts.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Again, my name is Joey Pitts. I live in Polk County, North Carolina. And I want to address the dire lack of training and support for families dealing with reactive attachment disorder with the Department of Social Services. As a parent of a child diagnosed with RAD, we are deeply concerned about the current state of mental health support and advocacy within our community. My wife and I recently attended a national meeting of RAD advocates. At this meeting, we met several families who, like us, are struggling with the inadequate training DSS officials receive in handling cases involving RAD. The current actions of Polk DSS are not only ineffective, but are causing further harm and trauma to our RAD child and her siblings. I am a Marine Corps veteran and the pastor of a local Baptist church, and my wife is a nurse practitioner at a local retirement community. Despite our professional backgrounds, we find it incredibly challenging to navigate the system and obtain the support our child desperately needs. It is evident that until this disorder is better understood by DSS officials, additional harm and trauma will continue to be unintentionally inflicted upon these families and their children. Therefore, we urgently request the following points be addressed. One is a lack of training. Address the dire need for additional training for DSS officials on reactive attachment disorder, RAD, ensuring they have the knowledge and skills required to support families effectively. Oversight and accountability. Implement additional oversight and accountability measures to ensure that DSS officials are providing appropriate support and not causing further harm to RAD children and their families. The urgency of this matter cannot be overstated. We fear that without immediate intervention, more families will suffer needlessly. We feel Polk DSS has overstepped to a point of harassment towards our family. Our children don't feel safe at school or at home when DSS workers come to investigate due to their sister's false reporting. We urge you to take swift action to remedy the situation. Without educating DSS on the illness our daughter has, they will continue to persecute our family and take the words of a mentally ill child over a family with 7 other people telling the truth. Our family and our livelihood in the community we love is at stake. Our 15-year-old adopted child is duly diagnosed and has cognitive impairments, autism, fetal alcohol disorder, and schizoaffective disorder. Yet they lead her into saying things she doesn't even understand and refuse to approach her with the 4th grade level of understanding that she's accustomed to. All while DSS continues to ignore the truthful reports of our 5 other children who all see our daughter manipulate, lie, and continue to make false reports and physically abuse caregivers and family. Again, I appreciate your time. As a pastor and a veteran, my wife is a nurse practitioner. We have 6 school-age children in 4 Polk County schools, and I ask you to please help us. That is all.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Talavan Pollard. Hi, Talavan, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. You can go ahead and get started.
I'm Talavan Pollard, the birth mother of Tyva Pollard, and I'm here because the family policing system has impacted my life tremendously. I feel like wasn't targeted not only because of my skin color, but because of my past medical history and because of the side of town and neighborhood that I lived in. Not only has it affected me and my entire family, immediate family, I suffer from anxiety and depression because of being separated from my baby girl. Tyva, I thought CPS was for keeping families together, but in my case, they have done nothing but the opposite of my opposite. My experience proves that a parent can do everything they ask of you and still don't get their child back. On the day Tyva was born, I gave birth to her and she was a healthy baby girl and I named her Tyva. Everything was wonderful until it was time for discharge. The family policing agents entered my room and said that they were there because of my medical record showed past substance use. I was confused by their concerns because my child and I both tested negative for all substances. I was told in order to take her home, I had to agree to get tested and have someone move in with me so they can watch me with my child at all times. Not only did I have to take a urine, but a hair follicle test as well, which involves cutting chunks of my hair. Both state and federal experts explained in court how testing hair samples does not accurately measure sobriety, particularly in African American whose hair doesn't grow as fast as Caucasian. With all the stress of being consistently supervised and drug tested, everything was going good at home until CPS came to my house and sprung on me that they would be taking Taiwo from me and given to my mother until I got myself together. I was confused and distraught because I thought I was together. I was taking care of my child. I was sober and she was safe. I wasn't given a warning. And that's when I started to see that CPS had other plans for my family, and that didn't include keeping us together. During the course of my case, I accomplished completing parenting classes, AA, DVD courses, SAYOP, anger management, and attained other skills that helped me progress in life and as a mother. None of it mattered to them. After every milestone, they kept coming up with excuses, adding on to my case plan as to why I wasn't fit to gain custody. First, it was because I couldn't handle a newborn and a toddler. Then they needed to see that I was able to get a job in a stable place. After graduating the program, I went to all women and children Oxford House, and they basically were saying that she didn't need to be around me or other recovering addicts. To this day, I feel hurt, betrayed, dehumanized, worthless, and a failure. There's no words to explain my hurt and pain. Earlier this year, the Supreme Court of North Carolina denied my appeal on the order to terminate my parental rights. And to this day, Taiwo is not with us. CPS doesn't see me as a mourning mother, but as a statistic. They care less about all the accomplishments and progress. Something has to be done with CPS. The way they handle cases, the judgment is ridiculous. I'm asking that the committee look at the impact of TPRs and create a pathway for parents like myself to reinstate their parental right. Taiwo, I love you, and we'll always keep fighting.
Thanks so much for your comment. At this time, this concludes the list of registered speakers, and we'll move on to other individuals on the call who had not registered and have not spoken yet. If you have already shared a comment today, we will not get to you until others who have not had a chance yet go first. As time allows, we'll get back to you if we're able to. And we'll go in the order of hands raised of those who have not spoken yet. So our first non-registered speaker is Todd Hunter. And I apologize, one note before we have Todd speak. If you're joining us by phone and you'd like to speak, please press *9 on your phone, and that will show your hand raised in Zoom. So we'll move on to Todd Hunter at this time. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Please start your remarks when the timer begins.
Okay, thank you. So good day to all. Thank you for this moment here as we're all speaking about what's going on. I want to address the grievances that have been caused by the fiduciaries in their positions of trust. In 2020, they came onto my property and kidnapped 8 of our children. Fortunately, my divine and I were able to relinquish their custody. But within that 7-day trial, or 7-day time, excuse me, we found out from Senator Nancy Schaefer. She was assassinated, her and her husband. And she was putting out the information that the CPS system is being utilized to destroy families. This is Senator Nancy Schaefer. Her and her husband were assassinated. The Social Security Act, Title 11, 10D, specifically says that nothing in the act is to be construed as to allowing for whatever representative to take charge of the parent's children. This is in the act. The Social Security Act is a phenomenal act because it actually looks out for the family. But the fiduciaries are not holding their obligations to the principals they serve, to the clients they serve, to the customers they serve, whatever terminology they want to use. And it's a simple thing. It's going all across our nation. They came to my house while I'm here in Oklahoma, and they, by gunpoint, a 4-man SWAT team kidnapped my infant son after my lady passed away. So I've seen this system from the East Coast and the West Coast. And as a father who's created beautiful human beings to contribute to our world, it is bewildering that the people in trust, the fiduciaries who are obligated to the people they serve, all of the people who have consciously decided to become fiduciaries, are breaching their obligation, and they're destroying our society. So I want to say to everyone listening, use the federal court, sue the individuals involved. They are your trustees. They are not the authority. We are the authority. To the lady who fought in the court, continue on. The court is our battleground. You have to use it. The lawyers are your agents as well. I yield.
Thank you for your comments. The next speaker will be Kelly Stanley. Kelly, can you hear us?
Yes, can y'all hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank
You can
y'all.
get you can go ahead and get started.
Okay, I'd like to begin first. I am with Break the Silence, North Carolina. We held a rally June the 12th of this year in Raleigh at the Halifax Mall. We are planning to hold another rally July the 24th of this year. And we're hoping to get other families, as the ones I'm hearing about tonight, to come and join us. The website is breakthesilencenorthcarolina.com. I am a grandmother whose grandchildren at the 6 months of age lived with me, my husband, and their father. January 2010. My son was granted the temporary custody January of the year 2011. 2013, he was granted the permanent custody. September the 27th, 2013, one of his daughters at the age of 4 reported sexual abuse to her therapist. DSS did not accept the report to investigate. I was advised by attorney to make a report. They accepted my report. January 2014, returned home from mom's visitation. And the following night, on January the 12th, 2014, one complained that her private hurt. Her pee-pee was hot. And her stepfather had touched her private again. She was taken to the hospital, diagnosed with a UTI, prescribed Bactrim. March 26, 2014, in the custody case, Judge Karen Stewart ordered that these children can no longer have therapy, nor could they have pelvic exams in reference to sexual abuse. And if they reported abuse, we were ordered to redirect the children. March 22nd, 2014, complaint of private hurting, taken to the hospital. This 4-year-old child was diagnosed with vaginitis. August 23rd, 2014, come back from mom's visitation, complaining private hurt because her stepfather touched her private. Again, this precious child diagnosed at the age of 5 with vaginitis. April the 25th, 2015, these children returned home from their mother's visitation, complaining that the mother's husband had touched the private again. This time, the child was diagnosed with sexual assault and then referred to UNC and was diagnosed with sexual assault. And DSS, who you think are going to protect children from abuse, removed these children from my home, claiming they were emotionally abused due to unnecessary and unwarranted pelvic exams. But there were diagnoses with every pelvic exam. 6 months later, they dismissed a petition and returned the children back to my son. February 22nd, 2017, one of them disclosed sexual abuse to her therapist, that her stepfather had touched her private the previous weekend. Lord and behold, here comes DSS again, removing these precious children from our home again.
Thank you, Kelly. Your time is now up. The next speaker will be Ebony Holt.
Hi, my name is
Hi,
Ebony.
hi, Ebony.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'll wait for the countdown. It's nice to meet you all. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks for being here. Please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So my name is Ebony Holt, and I live in Stanley County and would like to share my story. But first, I would like to state some facts as far as what's going on. So I have 2 children that I love and adore, and that I love being with on a daily basis. That in sports, and we do a lot of fun things, gymnastics and things like that. But before I start talking about everything that's been going on with this process with dealing with CPS, I would like to add that in 2022 there was an estimate of 3.9 million reports made involving almost 7 million children to family policing agencies through the nation. In 2021, 3 million children experienced a family police investigation and alternative responses. The official number is not out for 2024 yet, but my family will be a part of it. And I just want you all to know that. I wanted to state here in March of 2024, our family experienced the most horrific and traumatic moment when I was contacted by the Stanley County Family Police. The report was made because a family member weaponized the criminal system against me, which triggered a report to the family police. An agent of Stanley County, Aaliyah Bowman, came to my home and made the decision to leave my children in my care. She saw I was a loving mother and that my children were safe. The false charges were later dismissed, and I thought this nightmare was going to be over. My children and I had to suffer 3 different agents. Each agent that came to my home told me that the case would be dismissed and closed, and that they did not see any concern. I didn't speak to Aaliyah Bowman, which was assigned to my case, until I reached out to figure out why I had not received a case decision letter. This is when things took a drastic turn. When I spoke with Aaliyah Brown again, she told me that she staffed the case with her supervisor, and her supervisor, Maria Webb, had concerns. Her supervisor had never met me nor my family, yet she had concerns 3 months later. Per the North Carolina state policy, county has 45 days to complete an investigation. If the investigation goes over the 45 days, there is supposed to be a valid justification to the parent and supposed to be notified. The justification given for the delay was that the social worker had too many cases and she was getting to my family on a need basis. She said that in order for the case was for the other cases were more severe, but Stanley County is recommending that my case be in-home services. And I don't know why, because I don't need the services, nor do I know why they continue to harass me on my children after 3 months.
Thank you, Ebony. The next speaker will be Antoinette Hawes.
Hello.
Hi, Antoinette. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Antoinette, and I had my rights terminated in 2016. My youngest child has turned 18 and will be 19 in November. I go to the clerk's office to put in a request for a hearing to unseal the record. I won't go into the detail about what had happened. Okay, it happened, and it was against me, and that's what it was. But the clerk tells me when I go in to put in my request for a hearing to unseal the adoption that I must have the child's name, the child's adopted name, and the child's case number in that special proceedings. Now, I said all that to say this. We need a special prosecutor. We need a special prosecutor with an investigative team. We need a special prosecutor with an investigative team, with a team of assistant prosecutors. in every state in the union. We need a special prosecutor to come in and investigate these terminated families, these terminated rights. And let's talk about the fact that CPS does not like to report abuse to their children, to the police, or in medical. What is okay for CPS to document is not okay for us. It's death to the mothers and the fathers and the grandparents. And for them, it's just another Wednesday. Period. That is not acceptable because these children have rights and they have the law to protect them. They have an institution to protect them. And we need to enforce that. And the only way we are going to enforce it is to get somebody to bring the hammer down. The hammer will be the special prosecutor to go in, unpack these cases and see where the rights were violated, see where the laws were broken, see where the incidences and the crimes were committed, and go ahead and start chopping heads, period. That's what we need to do. So with that, that is my request. And my understanding is I'm still waiting for the clerk's office to come and tell me how I'm supposed to have his adopted name and how I'm supposed to have the case file. That's the purpose of me going to the clerk's office, to file for a hearing so that the judge can approve me to get the information so that we can unseal the case to find out what his name is, to find out what the case number is so that I can proceed. This seems to me like the syphilis experiment where they just did these things to these people unknowingly. This has got to be a social science experiment. It's got to be. It could not be anything other than a social science experiment gone wrong. And we want justice, and we will not rest until we get what we came for. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Antoinette. At this time, we only have time for 3 more speakers. Anyone who is unable to speak will have the opportunity to submit written comment. I'd now like to call Stephanie Hooks to speak.
Hey, this is Stephanie. My husband's actually going to be speaking on our behalf, Eric.
Hello, my name's Eric Hooks. We come to you
Eric,
today to expose the corruption, the collusion, and the manipulation that have infiltrated Cabarrus County, leading to severe civil rights violations that have devastated families, including my own. This is not just a matter of administrative failure. It is a grave injustice that demands our immediate attention and action. My own family has been directly impacted by this corruption. My 5 children were taken from us under highly questionable circumstances. Despite my efforts to provide a loving and stable home, the system turned against us, driven by motives that had nothing to do with the well-being of our children. This travesty is part of a larger pattern of manipulation and abuse of power that has become all too common in Cabarrus County. We have witnessed how local government officials, law enforcement, and certain judicial figures collude to further their personal and political agendas. Decisions are being made behind closed doors without transparency or accountability. Those who dare to challenge this corrupt system face severe repercussions. Whistleblowers are silenced through intimidation, legal threats, and even job losses. This creates a culture of fear that stifles any attempts to bring about meaningful change. Civil rights violations are rampant. Families are being torn apart without due process. The right to a fair trial is a distant dream for many in our community. Evidence is manipulated, testimonies are coerced, and judicial outcomes are predetermined based on who holds the most power and influence. This is not justice. It is a perversion of our legal system. In my own case, the removal of my children was based on false accusations and fabricated evidence. Despite providing ample proof of my ability to care for my children, the system ignored our pleas and upheld the wrongful decisions. This is not an isolated incident, but part of a systematic abuse of powers that targets the most vulnerable among us. Moreover, there is blatant collusion between certain business interests and local officials. Contracts are awarded based on favoritism rather than merit, leading to a misallocation of public resources. Those who are well-connected thrive, while the rest of us suffer the consequences of a corrupt and inefficient system. This collusion extends to cover-ups of misconduct whether investigations are either never initiated or quickly buried to protect those in power. We must demand an independent investigation into these allegations of corruptions and civil rights violations. We need to hold our elected officials accounted and ensure that they serve the interest of the people, not their own selfish agendas. We must push for reforms that will restore transparency, accountability, and fairness to our institutions. Let us unite and raise our voices against this tyranny. Let us fight for justice and the protection of our civil rights. Cabarrus County deserves better, and it is up to us to bring about the change we need. Together, we can expose this corruption, hold those responsible accountable, and reclaim our community for the sake of our children and future generations.
Thank you.
Thank you both. The next speaker will be Lauren Andrews. Hi, Lauren, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me as well?
Yes, thank you so much. You can go ahead and get started.
Yeah, I just want to first say thank you for having me tonight. I just really appreciate the time. I want to first start off by saying I'm a mother of two children, two beautiful young little boys, Zachary Andrews and Michael Pusser. They were taken from me 2 years ago in Orange County, North Carolina, on false allegations. They got into foster care, and my 1.5-year-old got hurt. I then got them back, and then I was to go to a women and children's program. 6 months into the program, I got kicked out for a bad attitude. I went to my mom's house where they were placed with me and my family members, and we were told to go back into another women and children's program. At that 6 months, I was clean and sober, and the day that we were supposed to leave, Orange County at Chapel Hill came and said that we were not allowed to go and that the boys could not come with me. So they took my children again, and I had 6 family members that weren't looked into. I was clean and sober for over 1.5 years. I had done everything on my case plan that was asked of me. I never missed a single visit with my children. The visits were hard for my children. My visits did get terminated after last year due to it was too traumatic for my children to see me go. So they stopped my visits due to how traumatic it was for me to leave. My DSS worker did not believe in mothers that did have addiction problems. She wasn't nice. She would argue with me in front of my children. She would put me down in front of my children. She would also laugh at me when I would cry. Let's see. The original call was for domestic abuse that I had called to ask the cops for help. Unfortunately, the father did pass away, but that's what the original call was placed for, and that led to the boys being placed in foster care. When my son got hurt, there was nothing that was done about it, just more bad dreams and just a lot of traumatic stuff that happened to me and my children, just having to live with that. When the boys got taken away, I did do everything they asked me to do, and they then filed for adoption to terminate my parental rights. They were with a respite family for a year that I knew nothing about. I signed releases for a psych eval, and they then said I had a 78 IQ, which was not true at all, that I was on 3rd grade level, and that I would never be able to take care of my children. I've been working at Sutton's drugstore for over 3 years, and have had a great job. I've offered to pay child support. I know that I don't have an IQ of 78, but the lies and just the stuff that DSS that has gotten away with, and then for the judges to agree with a lot of these
Lauren.
things.
Your time is up now.
Okay.
Thanks for your comments. At this time, we'll hear from our last speaker, Marcella Middleton. Hi, Marcella, can you hear us?
Hey, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thanks for being here. You can go ahead and get started.
Alrighty. I'm Marcella Middleton, and I want to be extremely clear that my remarks are not to negate any testimony shared before me. I stand with the people who have so saliently shared that the call for transformation is needed for the child welfare system and the call for accountability after unjustly experiencing wrongdoings and harm so many families, including mine, have experienced. I speak from my own experience being taken away from my mom. I was taken and given back to my mom multiple times between living in both North Carolina and Colorado from the ages of 2 until 15, and I remained in foster care until I was 21 years old. And every time I went back home, I was further traumatized. And being able to be in foster care, which brought its own issues and trauma, I'm sad to say, at least it wasn't in vain. I had access to resources like college, being connected to youth-led organizations like Say So, which is a youth-led organization, and Say So stands for Strong Abled Youth Speaking Out, that helped shape my future to be great. I knew my fate if I stayed with my mom. I was on my way to be a statistic for people to leer at and judge into a really dark place. And there is no question that the child welfare system needs to transform, and accountability is in order. I ask that you don't forget those of us who deserve a fighting chance in life, whose parents weren't doing right by us. My mother doesn't represent the parents who were done totally unjustly, but she does, however, make up the part of the percentage of parents that are not safe. And I'm here advocating for youth who also have parents that aren't safe. Our stories are horror stories and have left scars that some people only read about or watch in movies. The vulnerability of those youth should not be ignored. I invite you to be curious, to learn more about these stories, to actually transform the child welfare system. There is no one size fits all in these cases where we're dealing with human lives that are complex and unique. And as I work with young people today who are just like me, the need for safety hasn't subsided. It's continuously growing due to the continuation of ignoring the root causes of these issues. Again, don't forget those of us who are vulnerable to unsafe parents who need checks and balances. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcella. At this time, I'll pass the floor to the chair to conclude today's forum.
On behalf of the advisory committee, I would like to thank everyone who was on board today to share your comments. If you joined to provide public comment today, but we did not have the opportunity to hear from you, please email your remarks to lschiller@usccr.gov by September 23rd, 2024. Again, we very much appreciate your time and will keep your comments in mind as we draft our reports on this topic. If you're interested in updates on our study, we invite you to join our upcoming panel series, where we will hear from a variety of stakeholders and impacted individuals throughout the summer. The first of these briefings will be Friday, July 12th at noon Eastern Time. More details are available on the Commission's Federal Registry. Again, we thank everyone for your time and your comments, and I will now adjourn the meeting at 8:02 p.m. Thanks, everyone. You may now disconnect.